The stars shimmered over Earth, serene and oblivious to what was about to unfold. Across continents, screens flickered to life as billions tuned into what was promised to be a historic moment. The Galactic Council's Unity Summit streamed live from Threxel 9. This was meant to be a demonstration of peace, cooperation, and the hope of a united galaxy. Earth, a recent entrant into the interstellar community, had sent envoys, humanitarian workers, and diplomats, many of them women, representing the idealism of a new age. The broadcast anticipation was palpable. The feed opened with majestic orchestral tones and a sweeping shot of the Threxel sky. Then chaos. Without transition, the serene visuals were torn away. The screen went black for half a second, then flickered into a grainy live feed of a massive holding compound. Cages, platforms, bright floodlights, and thousands of terrified human women. A robotic voice echoed in distorted translation, "Observe, Earth." A pause. Then fire. Bullets. Plasma. Screams that pierced even through speakers, broadcast live in real time. For 8 minutes, the massacre unfolded in sickening clarity. The executioners, alien soldiers from the GCF, the Galactic Conquest Forces, systematically wiped out the women. Some tried to run. Some stood defiant. All were cut down. A drone panned across the carnage like a documentary reel. On Earth, silence. In homes, bars, offices, everywhere the broadcast played, time stopped. In one apartment in Chicago, a father fell to his knees, clutching a photograph of his daughter who had volunteered for the peace mission. In Cairo, a young boy stared blankly at the screen, his mother sobbing behind him. In Tokyo, someone screamed loud enough for neighbors to hear. But most watched in mute disbelief. The stream ended with a message in blood-red characters across the screen. Let Earth remember its place. The aftermath was instant. Governments snapped into motion. Emergency sessions were held. Protests erupted in every major city. Social media became a cacophony of fury. This was not war. This was spectacle. Deliberate. Calculated. Evil. Within 6 hours, the United Earth Assembly convened under martial protocol. For the first time in recorded history, every nation voted unanimously. Retaliation. Earth would not plead, would not negotiate. It would answer. The president of a unified Earth government addressed the world from the North American command bunker. Her voice was composed, but her eyes betrayed a quiet rage. They killed 70,000 of our own, unarmed, on camera, for a message, and they thought we would fold, that we would bow. Today, we remind them, Earth is not weak. Earth is not silent. Earth sends her answer now. The camera cut. In a subterranean military complex beneath Alaska, the Terran Drop Division's war room lit up. The emblem of the United States Marine Corps, modernized for off-world deployment, glowed over a row of reinforced lockers. Captain Elias Ward stood in full combat armor, watching the replay of the massacre in silence. He didn't flinch. His jaw clenched once, his breath slow, controlled. His face was a map of scars, one cutting from temple to cheekbone, a souvenir from an earlier campaign on Calyx Prime. He had buried men, women, and entire squads under enemy fire. But he had never seen something like this. A holographic image of Threxel 9's capital blinked into existence beside him. Estimated enemy strength, 30,000. Heavily fortified. GCF generals confirmed present. The AI's voice was clinical. Elias nodded once. Behind him, his squad filed in, each one chosen for reasons beyond paper qualifications. Lieutenant Mira Chun, sharp-eyed, methodical, a strategist born in the chaos of Europa's failed insurrection. Sergeant Carter, quiet, precise, lethal. Corporal Reyes, the youngest but fastest trigger and a chip on his shoulder the size of Jupiter. Specialist Anika Vale, a drone tech with a hacker's edge and a smirk that often preceded explosions. And finally, Gunnery Sergeant Malik, massive, near silent, the kind of soldier whose presence was a sentence all on its own. Ward turned. You all saw it, he said. No one spoke. 70,000 civilians. Peace workers. Diplomats. Executed on broadcast. GCF wanted to humiliate us. They thought we'd tremble. Chen's voice was ice. They underestimated Earth. Ward paced once, then activated the holodeble. Operation Silent Thunder. Mission is surgical incursion on Threxel 9. Target: full annihilation of command infrastructure. Objective: no retreat. No diplomacy. This is a one-way drop until extraction is confirmed. Reyes swallowed hard but kept his eyes forward. What's the green light? Fleet will drop us outside the capital. No support until the jammer grid is fried. We're going in dark. Ward looked at each of them. This is a message. Not just to them, but to everyone watching. This is what happens when you target Earth. Sergeant Carter, who hadn't spoken since entering, finally said, "Sir, permission to request full armor loadout." "Granted," Ward said. "We go in heavy. You want payloads? Take them. If it explodes, bring it. If it cuts, carry it. I don't want survivors in their chain of command." Anika Vale tapped her wristpad. "Drones pre-programmed for kill and burn recon. Give me 5 minutes, and I'll have their comms chewing static." Malik just nodded. As the team dispersed to prep, Ward lingered at the screen, replaying the massacre. It looped again, and again. Each time it hit him the same, not shock, but clarity. These weren't casualties of war. They were trophies. A deliberate attempt to say Earth was vulnerable. He stepped into the armory, suited up in next-gen exoskeletal combat gear. The white-gray camo lined with adaptive shielding, kinetic response gel underlay, and a reinforced HUD helmet. As the American flag patch settled on his shoulder, he reached for a red strip of cloth, folded carefully in his locker. He tied it around his neck. It had once belonged to his sister, killed in a civilian bombing 5 years earlier. She'd been a UN field medic. "Never again," he muttered. The next hours moved like falling dominoes. Weapons loaded, drop pods fueled, last transmission sent. Final goodbyes, silent and brief. The squad boarded the carrier Retribution, its engines already humming with fury. In orbit, the Earth fleet aligned in formation. From carriers to stealth cruisers, their guns pointed at the stars. The galactic community watched, some with concern, others with fear, but none would stop it. In his pod, Ward synced with his team's feed. Across their visors appeared the mission code, glowing in red. Silent Thunder, retaliatory strike, authorized by Global Mandate 9. Then another message followed. 70,000 dead. "Let them hear," Earth's reply. The countdown began. Ward closed his eyes just as the pod launched, a silent missile of vengeance, burning through space toward the world that dared to think Earth would forget. They weren't coming to negotiate. They were coming to end it. The drop was silent, like falling through a dream soaked in vengeance. From orbit, the pods descended as streaks of fire across Threxel 9's storm-racked skies. Inside the sealed shell of their drop vessel, Captain Elias Ward crouched with his squad, boots magnetized to the floor, armor humming with kinetic charge. The only sound was the low rumble of friction and the occasional status ping in his helmet. No chatter, no nerves. They had all seen war, but this was different. This wasn't a mission, it was a reckoning. The pod slammed into the surface with bone-rattling force, hydraulic braces absorbing the impact. Explosive bolts detonated around the hatch, and a metal door blasted outward into the ruins of what had once been a human refugee camp. Smoke curled in the freezing air. Ash fell like snow. The first thing Ward saw as he stepped into the gray light was a child's toy. Burned, melted into the mud. Then the bodies. They were everywhere. Human remains half buried under scorched debris. Some frozen in motion, others tossed like trash. Many were women in field uniforms, 8 insignias still faint on their scorched sleeves. A few had been arranged deliberately, posed like art pieces meant to mock. Reyes swore under his breath and kicked over a piece of alien tech buzzing quietly in the dirt. "War crimes," Vale muttered, scanning the area with her drone controls. Every meter of this place. She didn't speak. Her eyes were scanning rooftops, alleyways, windows. She was always scanning. Ward gestured forward, and they moved with precision, weaving through the skeletal ruins of the camp. Every step was measured, every breath calculated. They were 10 kilometers outside the Threxel 9 Capital, where the GCF's command was entrenched. Their orders were clear: destroy the command structure, capture or eliminate ranking generals, and cripple the communications grid so the Earth fleet could pierce orbit. They found a first patrol near a collapsed hydroprocessing tower. 4 GCF soldiers, all heavily armed, part of a multi-species unit. One of them, a towering insectoid, caught the glint of movement and raised its weapon, but it was already too late. Vale's drone dropped a cluster of microblades into its thorax, while Reyes fired a single burst that shredded the second soldier's helmet. Chun flanked left, pinning the remaining 2 with suppressive fire, as Malik surged forward like a boulder and snapped the last one's neck with a clean twist. It was over in 11 seconds. Ward motioned to hold. The patrol leader, a reptilian hybrid, was still breathing barely. The captain knelt beside it, removing his helmet. His expression was calm, but deathly still. "Why the broadcast?" he asked. The alien's 3 eyes blinked erratically. Blood oozed from a gash in its neck. "Because you are weak," it hissed, voice trembling. "We needed the galaxy to see. You hide behind mercy. We do not." Ward didn't respond. He simply stood and drew his sidearm. A single shot ended the conversation. They pushed forward through the industrial district that ringed the city. Drone scans revealed heat signatures and electromagnetic activity. The enemy was waiting, embedded in fortified kill zones. Vale jammed the local signals just long enough for Chun to chart a safe route along the northern trench line. As they advanced, the terrain changed. Twisted metal gave way to open plazas scattered with rubble and the remnants of human housing. Graffiti and alien script covered the walls. Messages of conquest, territorial warnings, slurs. One building had a mural of Earth's globe wrapped in chains. Reyes spat on it as they passed. Gunfire broke the silence. Ambush. Plasma bolts lit the street in cyan flashes. The squad dove for cover as auto turrets emerged from the rubble, spitting death. Carter went down hard, hit in the shoulder, gritting his teeth as he slid behind a broken wall. 2 turrets. Sniper nest, 3rd floor window. Chin called out, eyes locked on her HUD. "Vale, overload the grid," Ward ordered. On it. She deployed a pulse drone that shimmered into view and zipped into the enemy lines. 3 seconds later, the area sparked violently, lighting up in a shower of sparks. The turrets shorted and died. Malik leaned out and fired a high-caliber round that tore through the sniper's perch. The alien inside was ripped in half. Ward moved to Carter, checking the wound. "Clean shot. Through and through. You'll live." Carter gave a sharp nod. "Then I'm still fighting." They reached a warehouse at the city's edge, ducking inside just as enemy reinforcements began to mobilize. The building was filled with crates marked in GCF script: supplies, weapons, surveillance tech. Chin picked up a data pad and scanned its contents. Her eyes narrowed. "This wasn't just a garrison," she said. "It was a broadcast station. They filmed everything here. Every kill, every execution." Ward's gaze swept the room, the walls lined with hollow cameras, the floor still sticky with dried blood. He didn't speak, but his fists clenched. Reyes moved to a corner and suddenly froze. "Sir," he said quietly, "you want to see this?" Ward approached. In a makeshift cage, curled into a corner, was a young Threxilian child, scared, barely conscious, but alive. Not human, not part of the broadcast. A civilian. Vale scanned the cage. "She's not a prisoner. She was hidden. Someone tried to protect her." Chen's voice was cold. "So even monsters have children." Ward crouched, meeting the child's eyes. She flinched, but he extended his gloved hand. She hesitated, then took it. "No one else dies for their message," he said. "Not on our watch." Malik secured the girl in a carrier pod and activated the drone beacon that would guide her to the extraction team when they arrived. It wasn't a mission, but it mattered. Outside, more GCF forces were converging. They'd lost the element of surprise. Ward checked his ammo, then turned to the others. "We've drawn blood. Now they know we're here. What's the next move?" Reyes asked. "We take the comm tower," Ward replied. "If we can kill the signal, Earth fleet can breach orbit. No more hiding. No more broadcasts. Just war. Carter, still bleeding but mobile, locked a fresh magazine into his rifle. Then let's bring it to their doorstep. They left the warehouse, the young Threxilian already lifted into the sky by a drone's quiet hum. Snow began to fall again, gentle flakes that vanished in the heat of smoldering buildings. The Marines pushed deeper into the city, their footsteps heavy with purpose. For every corner turned, another body. For every meter gained, another burned ruin. And ahead, somewhere in the heart of Threxel 9, the bastards who orchestrated the massacre waited behind fortified walls and broadcast towers, thinking they were safe. They were wrong. The city's veins were made of steel and blood. Threxel 9's capital was a fortress masquerading as a metropolis, its outer ruins only a smokescreen for what lay beneath. Captain Elias Ward led his squad through a narrow corridor lined with scorched support beams and twitching power cables. The light from his visor cast harsh shadows across the cracked concrete, each step bringing them closer to the heart of the storm. The air reeked of ion discharge and rot, punctuated by the acrid sting of burning plastic. They'd found it, the GCF's subterranean command center, buried beneath the shell of an old energy plant. It wasn't just where orders were issued. It was where the massacre had been coordinated, where every scream transmitted across the galaxy had been cued, edited, and played like a show. And it was going to burn. Vale crouched near a locked access door, her fingers dancing over a cracked keypad. Multiple encryption layers. Old code merged with Threxilian biometric lock. Someone expected company. Can you breach it? Ward asked, rifle aimed down the corridor. Absolutely, she said. But it won't be quiet. Chun flanked left, sweeping her weapon in practiced arcs. Noise doesn't matter anymore. They were already deep into enemy territory. The outer shell had fallen. The city above was in chaos. But here, in the tunnels and caverns beneath, the GCF had made their final stand. With a spark and hiss, the access panel blew open. Steam rushed out into the corridor. Malik moved first, shield raised, clearing the path. Inside was a hive of command infrastructure. Monitors, war tables, projectors flickering with troop movements. Half a dozen alien commanders turned too late. Bullets and blades followed. It was over fast. Reyes, bleeding from a gash near his eye, pressed a boot into the chest of one of the commanders and leveled his rifle. This one's breathing. Ward approached, knelt. The creature, a thick-bodied simian hybrid, snarled through broken teeth. You think you've won? The message is already spread. The galaxy sees what Earth is. Violent, primitive, predictable. Ward stared, then calmly tapped a button on his forearm display. A live stream activated, patching the squad's feed directly to the Earth fleet. Then let them watch. Without another word, he drew his sidearm and executed the commander on camera. This is Earth's answer. Carter stepped forward, holding a scorched data slab pulled from the console. Coordinates, sir. Secondary site. Looks like a research facility. Locked files, but it mentions human viability experiments. Chin narrowed her eyes. That wasn't part of the mission. It is now, Ward said. If there are prisoners, we free them. If there are bodies, we bury them. They moved quickly, planting charges around the command center. Vale programmed them for a delayed detonation. Enough time to make it out, not enough for anyone else to slip in. When the last device was armed, Ward gave the order to move. The secondary site was buried even deeper, accessible through a vertical shaft guarded by auto-sentries and mines. Reyes took a hit in the thigh while disarming one of the traps, but waved off aid. I can still walk, he growled. Just give me something to kill. They descended into the blackness, one level at a time, passing evidence of unspeakable acts. Human remains in glass cylinders. Notes scrawled in languages half-translated, detailing pain thresholds, neural mapping, behavioral triggers. Some of the victims had been duplicated. Others, altered. All dead. They reached the core of the facility, a cavernous lab bathed in sterile white light. Suspended in the center of the room was a metal cradle the size of a small vehicle, surrounded by monitors and surgical arms. Inside it, barely breathing, was a human woman. Chen moved first, her voice sharp. Vitals are weak. Sedated. She's alive. Vale scanned the equipment. They were mapping her memories, broadcasting her emotions. That's how they made the executions so visceral. They wired in the fear. Malik hovered protectively nearby, his massive form blocking any approach. Ward stepped to the cradle and looked down at the woman. Her face was pale, lips cracked, eyes fluttering. But she was real. Not a transmission, not a recording. "We get her out," he said. That was when the walls opened. The guard was unlike anything they'd seen. A creature built from metal and muscle, standing 3 meters tall with 6 arms. 4 mechanical, 2 organic. Its face was a mask of shifting plates, its eyes glowing with violent heat. It didn't speak. It charged. Carter stepped forward and took the brunt of the hit. The impact shattered his ribcage. He flew back, colliding with a wall. Reyes screamed and opened fire, but the rounds bounced off the creature's armor. Chun dropped to one knee, launched a magnetic mine, and shouted, "EMP now." Vale triggered the pulse. The creature convulsed. Its upper limbs froze. Ward moved in, drew his blade, and buried it between the armor plates at the neck joint. The creature shrieked, slammed Ward against the wall, then collapsed, twitching. Silence followed. Carter was dying. Blood leaked from his mouth in slow, ragged coughs. Ward knelt beside him. "Stay with me." Carter grinned faintly. "You owe me drinks. I'll name a bar after you," Ward said. Carter's eyes dimmed. "Make it loud." He was gone. Reyes turned away, fists shaking. Malik placed a massive hand on his shoulder, grounding him. They freed the woman from the cradle. She stirred weakly, whispering something incoherent. Chun wrapped her in a thermal cloak and began administering stabilizers. Ward activated his comm, package secured, requesting immediate evac. Coordinates locked. The response was static. Vale checked the uplink. Signals jammed. They've activated orbital defenses. Earth fleet can't punch through. "Then we hold," Ward said. "We set defenses. We protect her. They want another message? We'll send it." Outside the lab, alarms began to wail. GCF reinforcements were coming, hundreds of them, drawn by the death of their guardian, by the sabotage of their command. The squad worked quickly. Automated turrets scavenged from the corridors were mounted and aimed at choke points. Ammo was rationed. Reyes reloaded in silence, the fire behind his eyes burning brighter than ever. Malik moved a crate against the wall, nodding once to Ward. "We'll make them bleed." The woman coughed softly. Her eyes opened, locking on Ward's face. Did anyone see? He leaned closer. The whole galaxy. A flicker of understanding crossed her face. Then pain. Vale sat beside her, quietly adjusting her vitals. "We won't let them touch you again." Ward stood, rifle in hand, gaze fixed on the corridor beyond. He could already hear the distant clang of boots, the roar of alien voices echoing through steel. "Form up," he said. "We hold until Earth breaks orbit. No one gets past us." Chun checked her rifle, then looked toward Carter's body, now covered by a cloak. "He didn't die for nothing." "No," Ward said. "He died showing them who we are." As the shadows grew longer and the alarms screamed louder, the Marines took their positions. They weren't trapped. They were exactly where they wanted to be. The corridor vibrated with the rhythm of marching death. The GCF forces were closing in, dozens of boots slamming against steel, a hive of approaching violence. Inside the ruined research facility, the remaining Marines stood in silence, surrounded by makeshift fortifications built from scavenged crates and shattered bulkheads. Smoke drifted through the air, mixing with the sterile chemical sting of the lab. A low hum from the medical bed underscored the tension. The rescued woman still unconscious, her breathing shallow and uneven but stable. Captain Elias Ward checked his weapon one last time. His armor was scorched, dented, the HUD flickering from earlier impacts, but it would hold. Everything else had been stripped down to the essentials. Ammo, grenades, a combat knife strapped tight to his chest. No backup was coming. Not yet. Their signal was still blocked. The Earth fleet held at bay by an orbital defense ring that refused to fall. They had one job: hold the line until the blockade cracked open. He looked at Chun. Her expression was the same as always, focused, razor-edged, but beneath it was something colder now. Carter's death had carved a permanent notch in her. She hadn't spoken since they'd set the perimeter. She just moved, checked angles, calculated kill zones. She would speak again when the shooting started. Reyes sat with his back to a crate, cleaning his rifle with practiced, obsessive precision. Blood still stained his temple, but he'd refused the med patch. His anger was keeping him upright. Beside him, Vale finished rewiring a stolen turret, her fingers steady even as her lips moved silently, repeating a code to herself. Maybe a prayer, maybe a line of code. Malik stood by the entryway like a human wall, a heavy repeater braced against his shoulder. He hadn't moved for several minutes, and no one questioned him. When a moment came, he would become fire. Ward tapped his comm again. Static. Then, finally, a sliver of voice. This is Fleet Command. Partial breach achieved. We're hitting their orbital grid. ETA on full breach. 10 minutes. That was the window. They just had to live for 10 more minutes. Then the lights went red. The outer blast door imploded inward, and the first wave of GCF soldiers poured through. Not grunts this time. Commandos, fully armored, wielding shock rifles and thermal blades. Their war cries echoed in a dozen languages, but the message was universal: annihilation. Ward gave the only order he needed to. Hold! The room erupted. Chun dropped the first enemy with a clean headshot, then pivoted and downed 2 more. Reyes lit up the middle of the hallway with suppressive bursts, his shots clean and savage. Malik opened up with the repeater, shredding through armor and sending bodies flying. The auto-turret Vale had just finished began pulsing arcs of red-hot plasma, cooking anything that crossed its line of sight. Ward moved like a storm. He was everywhere, commanding, shooting, shoving a falling crate to block a flanking route, catching an enemy by the collar and slamming him into the ground before ending him with a pistol round to the skull. The first wave fell, but the second followed, and the third. They came with drones, slicing through the air like steel insects. Vale dropped to her belly, launched an EMP burst, and short-circuited the swarm. That's it for toys, she said, breathless. Let them come with blades next, Chun muttered. Her ammo was nearly gone. A GCF soldier got through the line, leaping past the defenses toward the woman on the medical bed. Reyes spotted him too late, but Malik did not. He lunged, body crashing into the attacker with a force that bent armor. The alien shrieked as Malik lifted him by the throat and hurled him into a wall hard enough to leave a crater. The floor shook. A heavy war beast stomped into view, 4-legged, plated in obsidian armor, mouth bristling with chemical sprayers and rotary guns. Chun reacted first, sprinting from cover with her last charge pack, a magnetic mine already armed in her hand. Cover me. Reyes and Ward opened fire, laying down a blanket of bullets to stall the monster. It lumbered forward, shrugging off impacts. Chun slid beneath it, slapped the mine to its belly, and rolled away just before the explosion ripped it apart from within. The blast threw her against the wall. She didn't get up. Ward was there in seconds. Chun, he shouted, dragging her to cover. Her breathing was shallow, blood spilling from her mouth. Just hold it, she rasped. Don't waste it. She pressed something into his hand, her last flare grenade. Use it when they break through. He nodded once, and she gave him a small, tired smile before her eyes closed. He didn't check for a pulse. He knew. The countdown ticked. 6 minutes. Then 5. Another wave hit, this time laced with hallucinogenic gas. Vale rerouted the filtration system and coughed through a mask, shouting, "Hold your breath." Reyes was fading. His ammo gone, his sidearm empty. He pulled his combat knife and waited at the edge of cover. When the next soldier came through, Reyes didn't hesitate. He plunged the blade through its throat, then took a plasma bolt to the chest. He fell without a sound. 2 minutes, came the voice from command. We're breaching now. Malik's repeater whined, the barrel glowing red. The last of the enemy forces charged, desperate to finish it before Earth's hammer came down. Ward and Vale stood together, covering the medical bed, the last two standing. Let's make them regret it, Vale said, bloody but grinning. "Already do," Ward replied. He pulled the flare from his belt, the one Chun had given him, and fired it upward. It shot through a hole in the collapsed ceiling, a burning red beacon punching into the storm. 1 minute. Then the walls trembled, not from an attack, but from salvation. Orbital bombardment began. Earth's fleet had broken through, and kinetic rods rained from the sky, slamming into GCF positions across the capital. Thunder rolled beneath the Earth, collapsing tunnels, vaporizing artillery nests, reducing fortresses to molten ruin. Dropships roared in, their weapons barking as they swept over the facility, tearing through the enemy. The GCF fell back, or tried to. Ward didn't let them. He stalked the last of them through the corridor, cornered their final commander, and pulled him down into the blood-soaked dirt. The alien begged. Ward's hand tightened around his blade. Every nerve screamed for vengeance. But he paused, not for the alien, for himself. "We're not like you," he said quietly. Then he drove the knife in clean and quick. When he returned to the lab, medics were already tending to the woman. Fleet troopers moved through the wreckage, pulling out bodies, salvaging what remained. A sergeant approached him. "You're Captain Ward?" He nodded. "We have a broadcast. The full facility records. The world's already watching." Ward looked around. His squad was gone. Only Malik and Vale remained, both sitting in silence. "Let them see," he said. "Let them see everything." He walked to the exit. Behind him, the facility burned. In front of him, Earth's banner flew from a dropship, whipping in the smoke-filled wind. They had answered the broadcast, and the galaxy would never forget.